If I will need to pick only one thing that drastically improves my mix quality, that will definitely be copying others' homework. Or in other words, using reference tracks. I know it sounds too easy and intuitive to talk about, but believe me, a wrong reference track or even wrong sections of it can do more damage than not using reference at all. That being said, I hate to break it to you, but some of the most popular analyzers and referencing tools can do more harm than good. But more on that later in the video. Let's start with the least talked yet super important aspect. Where to look for reference tracks and how to get them to work inside your DAW. At all costs, try avoid ripping songs off YouTube. You can never be sure about the MP3 quality, not to mention the lack of high-end, which can be crucial if you really start to reference your song. The best practice with guaranteed quality is to get those tracks from the services like Beatport or Apple Music. But the most affordable option, which can last you long, is to get a software like Loopback or Audio Hijack. Well, at least it was, since I believe there is an easier way on new macOS, but just like all the producers, I'm too afraid to make an update yet. For Windows users, it's even easier since a free software we all know but not love, Audacity, have this option by default. And yes, I agree, it requires time to spend on recording, unlike just downloading the file from the website or the service, but to be completely honest, with both cases, you need to be very picky, since quality over quantity also applies to reference tracks. And once you get them inside your session, the fun and the struggle begins. First noticeable thing that pushes people back from using reference is how different they sound compared to the tracks you work on. But this huge difference is in fact an illusion. Your reference track will always sound brighter and bigger due to greater LUFS and peak measures. Sounds easy for me to say just match the volume, but how much exactly you need to turn your reference track down? Well, to be completely honest with you, I never need to worry about that. Once you drag your reference tracks inside our reference plugin, it automatically matches it for you. If you're curious about the exact difference, it's visible here on the left. To the right, you can see integrated LUFS comparison. Those values aren't mandatory, you can change them to true peak and short term, if that's your thing. These, as well the other details, can be changed to default inside settings. Notice that you're not restricted to matching to your track only. You can match the loudness to the quietest reference you have, or to the streaming platform standards. This can be quite useful if you have more than one reference track, but also if you want to check how your track is gonna sound after streaming normalization. But let's get into the most important aspect of using reference tracks. It can be frustrating to not know exactly how to get your music comparable in terms of tonality. As long as I encourage you to use your ears, especially since we level match things, a little bit of a visual hint would be a game changer for you. The main star of this process is the level line below the meters. As you can see, it's moving accordingly to the signal, and let me tell you something, that's your biggest benefit compared to others trying to use reference tracks. At the beginning, I mentioned other analyzers and tools, and well, the harsh truth is that they show you a very slowed down spectrum of the entire track. I agree, it can help you to get the idea where to start, but honestly, I can't count how many times I needed to cut the level of my bass on my intro or remove high-end whenever the vocals were not playing. Long story short, reference eliminates the confusion. The white line is showing me exactly where I need to apply boosts or cuts to match the tonality of this exact section. Of course, it will never stay perfectly flat, but don't worry. If it's within plus minus 3 dB range, it shows a very similar tonal balance. Level line also automatically matches to scale, and my personal tip here is that keep that in mind, since whenever it needs to scale up to 10 or 15 dBs, then well, A simple tonal adjustment with EQ won't be enough. At this point, it's better to get back to mixing stage. Some of you left a bunch of comments on our page saying that you had no idea about the next two features, but before I show them to you, make sure to click that subscribe button and leave a like if you enjoyed this video so far. First thing is that, just like with selecting sections, you can click on Trinity display and select the exact frequency range you want to work on. Then you can easily compare, for example, the amount of low ends without getting distracted by other frequency ranges. It's a good practice, but keep in mind that the longer you're listening to something in solo, the more your ears will be fatigued once you get back to the full range. The second cool option are those two buttons. By default, reference works in a free mode and it lets you choose which part you want to compare, but if your reference track has the same tempo and very similar arrangement, then you can use the mirror mode. It responds to your playhead inside your DAW, so you can safely go through the whole track and check the tonal balance without the need of stopping and changing the preview inside the plugin. You know what? I noticed that I got too carried away about all of those options to analyze inside reference, but it's only about tonality. And in fact, reference have a wide range of options to check and compare the dynamics and stereo field. Both of them deserve a separate video, but speaking of stereo field, you might want to watch this one first.